Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of UNTV, where we're trying to figure out what the hell's going on in WandaVision. Unfortunately, we are missing one of our nerds tonight because of having a job, I guess. Unfortunately,
prior commitments, but that's okay. We are gonna spend some time talking about episode 6.
Episode 6, all new Halloween spectacular. I think it was a lot of fun. We're gonna run through the group. Cake, what did you think of the episode?
You know what? I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I guess I was about to say maybe because it wasn't a Wanda heavy episode. She was there a good amount, but there was a lot of other stuff that happened, and I enjoyed all these storylines that are progressing.
Very true. And Allison, what did you think?
Setting aside my dislike of holiday-themed episodes not happening at the right time of the year, I will let that go. This was probably my favorite episode so far to date. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, and I always forget to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sky. I thought it was a lot of fun. I was incredibly happy to see a little bit of I don't want to quite call it a lull, but this felt like it wasn't trying to be as like blow your mind worthy as a couple of the prior episodes. It felt like Cake's giving some looks. She clearly disagrees with me, but I felt like we got the excitement of episode 5, which is the midpoint, and now we're like, okay, but just what does that mean? And explore that a little bit instead of opening up all these brand new things.
See, I half agree with you. It was nice to not be like having more questions asked, but I still think there was a lot happening in this episode, and it was a big episode for a lot of different reasons. But before we jump too much into that, we need to answer this question. Was this the 90s or was it the 2000s?
Yes, that is one thing where this is especially the opening and a lot of what they're doing with Billy and Tommy in this. It's heavily inspired by Malcolm in the Middle. For anyone who didn't see it, you both clearly got it.
Yeah.
But Malcolm in the Middle was a show that began in 2000.
Yes.
This was meant to be our 90s episode, I'm pretty sure.
There's other facts that point to this as well. Malcolm in the Middle is the big one, but also when they are out trick-or-treating, standing in front of the movie theater, there are 2 movies being built.
Right. The Incredibles and Parent Trap.
Yes. And Incredibles is 2004, and Parent Trap is 1999. Ooh. So, yeah, it's like we kind of just skipped over the 90s, but a lot of like the style and the clothing and stuff was definitely 90s. It was not 2000s. So it's like they've combined two decades for this episode.
Do they have to make up for episode 4 taking us out of the decade jumps entirely and be like, okay, let's catch up by doing 2 and 1?
Possibly.
What happened in episode 4?
That was the one where we got all the sword stuff and weren't really spending any time with Wanda.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so it's very interesting that I think at first glance people would think it was the 90s, but there were numerous references to the 2000s. So
very true. This is the least clear cut the show has been, that's for sure, in terms of these decades.
But I mean, we're still able to definitively say it's somewhere between 1990 and 2009. Like, we still have a time period that we can base it off of. And really, is there much difference between the 90s and the early 2000s?
Little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to decide what's the best way to do this right now. Let's talk a little bit more about the whole Pietro thing, because that was the big question we had after the last one. Where are you guys leaning? Is this a new body for Pietro, or is this Peter? Cake?
The line of questioning that Pietro was giving Wanda at the Halloween carnival, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, in Town Square, that line of questioning, I just thought it was Hayward. I was like, yes. Is this the big thing that Kat what's her name? Kat Dennings' character?
Darcy?
That Darcy, she's like, oh, I just have one more firewall to
Yes.
get by.
Yes.
Get by. It's something big.
Yes, agreed. 100%. That was my first instinct was, somehow he figured out how to get Peter in there as a plant. But so that Wanda would see him as her brother.
As her brother and disclose things to her. But then that raises so many more questions of who is this body? Is it our beekeeper friend? Has he just found a new role? Who could say? But also, like, if they were somehow able to manipulate a person and put them in this world, but that person not be under Wanda's control, how? How are they able to do that?
Because Peter can move so quickly that Wanda just cannot do anything to him. But I think I think it's possible because Hayward also has that like intel into the hex, right? He's tracking vision, he can see things. So clearly he has more visibility than what we were aware of. So I think that is a very strong possibility. Yeah, I don't think it's Pietro at all. I'm pretty sure it's a plant.
Pietro.
Okay, but you are thinking it is Peter though, and that's how we're explaining his having the speed. Is that where we're landing here, or we think it's a different guy entirely?
No, I think it's Peter.
Like X-Men Peter? That's what you're thinking?
Though, yeah, I don't know. Canonically? Canonically. I can't say that word.
We got there.
Canonically, I don't think it can be Peter because he is technically deceased. So,
yeah.
Well, it's a different franchise. They could just introduce him into MCU.
Yeah, I will say I am very much with you guys of wondering if Pietro has some ulterior motives, if he was working for whoever the bad guy is, be it Hayward or someone else. But the fact that he has the super speed has been the sticking point with me of how is this the case if he isn't in some way, even if it's just the mind put into another body, if he isn't just Pietro in some way. And this is, so I got 2 notes from Zoe that I want to be sure to toss in here. And this seems like as good a place as any to toss in her first one. Zoe says she doesn't trust white men. And she was specifically referring to Hayward and Pietro in here. I had to question her to make it not just the vast white men and which specific white men she referred to here. But yes, and this does kind of fall into exactly what the two of you were saying.
They're both very suspicious.
Yes. Hayward's been suspicious since day one.
But in this episode, Hayward just turned into a literal dick. Like, a terrible human being. Said terrible things, and then just kicked out the 3 best friends for absolutely no reason?
Well, they didn't agree with him. That's a reason. But yeah.
Also, speaking of the 3 best friends, I found it hilarious when Darcy's standing up to him a little bit and first being like, you might be my boss? I don't really know. And then Hayward says along the lines of, which one of you is the sassy best friend? And immediately Wu steps forward and starts talking.
Yeah.
I love Wu's character.
And it was just like such a perfect way to shut down Hayward, because I think what he said was, there's no need to demean your colleagues like this. Like, he literally called out his action completely. So, yeah. Wu, we stan Wu. He's great.
Yeah, he's great. And how him and Monica? I can't keep wanting to call her Maria. I know that's her mom's name. How him and Monica just instantly, they know to jump the guards, get on top of them, do this fight, get it over. And Darcy's just like, why didn't you tell me the plan?
That's always the plan.
I love it too, because the whole time, whenever we cut to her, she's kind of like this, like she's ready to go if it happens, but she's not trying.
No,
she's just like,
she's
no,
not
I'm
a fighter.
Back here.
She's a scientist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so great in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what happened to her?
I know. What happened
Is she
to her?
okay? We didn't see her.
We saw everything else when the bubble expanded.
Into the circus, which I think is just like an amazing concept. And I love it so much. And I know we're jumping ahead, but I just thought it was so great. And
she's just calling the government
clowns.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hilarious.
Like
So
utter
good.
clowns. It's so good. But yeah, Darcy wasn't part of that transition.
That she was actually the only thing we didn't see transition in there. Everything else we cut to see what they turned into now, but Darcy we didn't.
Yeah.
But also, why the heck did they even handcuff her to the front of the Jeep? Like,
Hayward's just a douche.
To further the story.
I realize it's to further the story of that she would be trapped, but also she was so invested in helping Vision. Don't you think it could have just fit into her character that she would have ran towards the fire to try and help Vision? I don't think she would have been booking it out of there. She would have stayed anyways. They didn't have to trap her. I don't like
I definitely
I could totally
agree.
see that being true. I will toss in that first of all, that is Zoe's other note, actually, that she's so thrilled that Sword became clowns because it fits so perfectly. So there's the rest of Zoe's thoughts. But yeah, I feel like the handcuffing can work. Like there's some sense to it just because these are a bunch of government agents who are like, you're getting in the way. We just want to push you to the side where you can't do anything.
Detain
we'll deal with you after exactly. So we could deal with you after the Vision situation. Was I the only one who didn't realize the bubble was in the shape of a hexagon until this episode?
Darcy's called it like a hex like 15 times.
Yeah, but she's been referring to like all the magic as a hex. So I just assumed the bubble was bubble shape.
No,
I thought that she meant just because it was magical.
Yeah, no. The first time she spoke of it, she called it a hexagon, and then it was a hex.
Totally missed that then.
I think I maybe also thought that she meant that it had like a hexagonal pattern in the
the actual structure of the cells.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was very clear in this episode that it had straight walls and sharp corners. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you guys think of Vision's little investigation into the outskirts of the town?
Oh,
Allison?
He has this entire episode, from the very first moment we saw him, I just really enjoyed how he's become so like aware that something is wrong, and like he says the wrong line and she questions him on it and he pushes it a little bit and she backs off. Like it's an interesting change in the dynamic. Even when he comes down in his costume and makes a comment about how it was the only thing in my closet, so what else was I going to wear? Which is funny because he's Vision. He could just make clothes appear on himself. But
true.
Yeah, and then to take it upon himself to lie to her. And oh my God. Okay, did anyone else find it heartbreaking, the woman at the clothesline?
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought her up. Now, it is well known with unsupervised nerds that I am not the greatest with faces, but I am like 90% positive that woman was Jack Schaefer, who's the creator of this TV show.
Oh, that's neat.
If it's not her, it is a woman who looks very close to her. And unfortunately,
there isn't an online database that you could have asked that question.
I was trying to look through Google and everything, but the problem is any version of even just writing Jack Schaefer's name or bring up WandaVision or cameos, it all just brought up Pietro in the last episode.
Right, but maybe there... I wish there was like a movie database on the internet.
Maybe it's internationally recognized.
I did check IMDb and nothing was listed, but these kind of cameos often aren't, especially when it first aired. So I might be entirely wrong. No one quote me on this, but I think it was her.
That's very cool. But yeah, that scene was just like, it just, I don't know why, but I just was like uncomfortable and sad.
I agree. Like just the one single tear. And I find it so incredible that absolutely no other facial acting was going on, but you could feel the intense pain.
Emotion, yes.
Emotion.
Yeah. And no dialogue at all. And I think it's just like, it was just so like a perfect example of how utterly trapped these people are and how they literally can only do what Wanda wants them to do. But I also think it was very strange how Vision saw them and her husband and watched them, but did not interact with them, did not get involved, just kept walking. And I guess that's probably because he was looking for bigger answers. Like he had already seen strange behavior, right?
Yeah.
So this isn't anything new. He probably maybe knew that he couldn't actually help them, so he was gonna carry on. Maybe,
unfortunately. I think based off of what he learned with Norm, he knew he wouldn't be able to help them. So
Hmm.
but
He was
why?
looking for more of the like
Yeah,
cause than more of
yeah, I
the problem.
guess.
Yeah.
But maybe they would have an answer if he talked to them. I don't know.
He did talk to Agnes, though, which was an interesting
Oh,
case. Where I
man.
want to ask what you guys think with how she ended up at the outskirts, kind of parked there, and how we know like no one was moving once they got that far away.
Hmm.
If Vision didn't show up, would Agnes have been stuck there forever?
I mean,
Probably. It is interesting though
theoretically,
because she was in the like the beginning credit theme song for the
Yeah.
episode, right? Like
Hmm.
heavily featured in that, and then yeah, we didn't see her till so farther into the episode, and it was a very small. Well, it wasn't small part because it answered some questions and oh, poor Vision. I don't know. I think it. I think it answered. I don't. I think I've changed my mind. I don't think she is a plant. I think she is just a neighbor who's nosy.
I still don't trust her.
I don't trust
Really?
her.
Interesting.
Like she's a good actress.
Well, Catherine Hahn is a very good actress, but
Yes, but I also think Agnes is a good actress.
yeah, but yeah, it was very interesting the information she gave to Vision, right? Because
Hmm.
he doesn't know who the Avengers are.
Which Cake wouldn't know this because she saw us at Watch Age of Ultron, but um, got Vision. Somehow I forgot Vision's name as we're talking about him. Vision was basically born into being the Avengers. He's never existed without being an Avenger.
That is his entire thing.
Yeah.
Is the Avengers.
I just thought it was. I just thought it was like a cool group of friends that he hung out with. They wore matching jackets, went on fun adventures.
They only wore matching jackets that one time.
And no capes except for Vision. But yeah, so it's very interesting that he did not understand who the Avengers were,
Hmm.
and even when she told him that he was dead, I still don't even think that was his biggest concern. His biggest concern is helping these people. He just wants to help them, and that's even what he said to her. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna get out of Westview, and find help. Figure out what's going on.
Which is so evident near the end when he is trying so hard to break through the hex, not for his own good. Like, it is literally killing him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has one line as he's like lying on the ground, basically dead. I think he says like, "We have to go help them," or so. I didn't write down the line, unfortunately, but it's something along these lines of trying to help the other people,
Yeah.
not himself.
It
at
wasn't
all.
help me, save me. It was like we have to help them.
Mhm.
So I think that's a very it just really highlights who Vision is as a person, because I know he's not a person, but that is his motive. Like he wants to help people, and he's definitely stuck in something he does not understand. But
Yeah.
he is
And
dead.
what did you guys think of Agnes getting to the point that she was like cackling with
Oh.
laughter as she was talking about how he's dead?
This entire thing, unless they can do, and I'm sorry, I feel like I keep cutting you off, Cake, but this entire town, unless they can do like a giant Men in Black mind wipe thing, this entire town is going to be traumatized by this forever. Like it is.
Just think about the therapy industry, though, after this.
Well, I
Ooh,
mean,
could we bring the Men in Black into this universe? I would be on board with that.
I would actually. Can we send an email to someone and let them know this needs to happen? Because
Is Tommy Lee Jones busy?
I don't think so. I think
He's
he is
already
done.
in the MCU.
Oh, that's disappointing. The new Men in Black, Men in
Men in
Black.
Chris Hemsworth is already, and Tessa Thompson is already.
I know. It's just
like
like it's a mess. We got Will Smith, I guess.
You know what? I think Thor needs a side gig. Like, he's not always that busy. So sometimes he could put on a black suit.
Talk to the
Why
pug.
not?
It'll be great.
Why not?
Yeah. But yeah, I just like it's just like they have been so traumatized to the point of like insanity that it's like how will they ever come back from this?
A thought I just had was to compounding on top of that is definitely the fact that half of this town would have been affected by the blip and would have just come back. Like, things have not been good for people. Things have been stressful, and
Yeah.
nonsensical and confusing already. And then this starts happening? Like, yeah, they are going to lose their marbles.
Yes.
Speaking of the fact that we've just come back from the blip, I want to go back to Monica for a second and how she's pushing so hard to wanting to help Wanda, and how she's made it very clear, especially in this episode, in how she was speaking. She is doing this because of how much she understands grief, because of the fact that the second she got back, she found out her mother died years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes into the Hex and finds out that Wanda is suffering in the same kind of way she feels like she is after finding out her mother died.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this personal connection that's driving her to wanting to help instead of listen to Haywood.
Exactly. But who's her guy? Who's coming?
Yeah, people are still guessing like Reed Richards and stuff, but I'm like, are they going to introduce the Fantastic Four this way?
That'd be wild.
It would be
literally
wild.
be wild.
I don't know who else it could be.
Can I ask a question about a line that Hayward said that I don't know if I'm just reading into it?
Yeah.
But he said to Monica, "It's a good thing you weren't here when your mother died, because clearly you can't handle this line of work."
Oh, I think she would have been actually in charge of all of Sword if she was there when she died. I think Hayward just was the default person because Monica wasn't there.
Oh, okay. I thought that he was like, I don't know, hinting that he did something to her mother. I was like, excuse me, what?
He probably did.
Probably.
It's possible. Maybe he gave her cancer.
Oh boy.
That man is walking cancer.
Yes.
All right, so we haven't really touched on much of the Wanda stuff, but before we do, I think this is the perfect time for a commercial break. And by that, I mean, let's talk about this weird-ass commercial.
I don't
No?
want to. It was very unsettling.
Well,
I don't like
watching a starving child turn into a skeleton holding a cup of yogurt was very disturbing.
like
But what about that
physically
cool
uncomfortable.
shark?
The shark was very cool, and I love the play on like the YoPlay commercials from the late 90s, early
Yeah.
2000s. And was there any kind of references or anything to anything
So-
else in the MCU?
Here's the thing. This one actually had me stumped for a little while until I watched it a couple times, because this is the first one that, aside from, like, it's called Yo Magic, so it's in reference to Wanda's powers. I think that's, we could say that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the most ambiguous as to what moment in her history that this is talking about. And I have an idea, but again, because it's so ambiguous, there's a chance that I'm reading into the wrong things or whatever. But what I believe this to be is the shark is Thanos. And we may remember back in Infinity War when Thanos first arrived and Wanda killed Vision in front of him. Thanos walks over and like pats her on the head, being like, "I get what you're going through." He doesn't say it, but it's like, "I just killed my daughter. I get how much it hurts to murder someone you love," and then brings Vision back and murders him again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is the moment it's referring to, because first it's the shark being like coming in and saying like, "I get what you mean. This is what I felt until I ate your magic," which is, I think, in reference to getting the stone. And it's also, so it's the connection of the shark trying to be like, "Yes, I understand what you're going through," while still being an asshole and not really helping. Yo Magic referring to her powers, which is from the stone, which is also what he's getting at. And the idea of time moving so quickly and then him dying could be a few different things, with like Vision having to, like, the reversal of time to bring Vision back to kill him, or the fact that there was the time jump. Like, Wanda had Vision die, within 5 minutes was gone, and then was suddenly 5 years in the future. So there's a lot of things we could play with time with that moment. So it's, as you could tell by how much I'm rambling, I don't think it's one for one enough to say like absolutely 100% this is what it is, but I think that's the moment it's talking about.
I think that probably makes the most sense, because yeah, I watched this a couple times and I was like, clearly we're talking about Wanda and her powers, magic.
Mm-hmm.
There was a tagline at the end of the commercial though.
Yo Magic, the snack for survivors.
The snack for survivors, which is, again, plays into that, right? Because Wanda has survived basically not basically. She has survived every traumatic thing.
Most things.
Yeah. every traumatic event in her life. So,
Technically, she
interesting.
didn't survive the blip. Other people had to bring her back from the dead,
I
but
mean, I guess, but yes.
Maybe it's foreshadowing. Now, one of the children is going to starve to death on an island.
how dare you? Ugh, so speaking of the children, how excited are you guys that they got their powers?
Yeah, super excited. I think it's great how the super fast one just has his super fast uncle to
Tommy.
bond with. It's just so great. I love that dynamic. I love Pedro causing chaos and mayhem during the trick or treating. Super fun.
They were pretty great. I love how Billy's more the responsible one, and like as soon as he gets his powers, uses them to like telepathic or telekinetically stop Tommy from running, and it's pretty great. Cake, what about you?
Sorry.
Oh,
Before Cake answers, I just thought of something that I meant to say earlier when we were talking about the movies.
mhm.
Because it was, and I don't know if I'm reading into this too much, but I feel like they were chosen specifically. The Incredibles, about a family of superheroes or family
Mhm.
with superpowers, and then Parent Trap, which is could be taken literally as a parent trapping you, but that movie also has twins in it.
Yeah, it's about twins with
So,
their parents being separated when right now
yes.
Wanda and Vision are kind of on the rock. So
Exactly. So I just think it's interesting how well those fit into everything that's happening. My apologies. Go on, Cake.
I don't have much to add. I mean, maybe it's because the boys getting powers was inevitable. And I mean, okay, super speed is great, telekinetic great. Like, I don't know, they're nothing surprising, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's like, yeah, okay, if those are power that they're gonna get, that totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I do enjoy how it's like the classic cliche of like the cool twin and the not cool twin. And the cool
the
twin has
Dorkosaurus Rex.
Dorkosaurus Rex is great. So great. But yeah, like the dorky twin with like short hair or normal hair and dresses a little normal. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just think it's funny how they really like leaned into that cliche.
What did you guys think of the classic comic book costumes?
Yeah, they were fun, I guess.
The whatever Pietro and the boy were dressed up as, they just look like anime. Like their hair
Yes.
was wild and so
Yes.
spiky.
That aside from the fact that he was wearing jorts, that was what Quicksilver looked like. That isn't quite speed. Because this was literally just like, what if we put a smaller Quicksilver outfit onto Tommy? But it was close enough. Speed is close enough to Quicksilver's look. But Cake, you're about to say?
I was just going to say, since we're talking about they are children, but I think that it is super interesting that we're finally have an episode where there are children. There are a lot of children, and it's just, I mean, other than Pietro, like, hard questioning Wanda about where did these kids come from? Did you just have them sleeping in their beds? Like, kind of making a joke out of it, but also not. He really wants to know the answer to how this works. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, where did these children come from? Why is nobody else remarking on
Because
these
she controls
children?
them. It doesn't matter. It just she controls everything. And I think it's just very interesting how literally in the previous episode, didn't Vision question her?
Yep.
Where are the
Yeah,
children? Why are there
yeah.
no children? And the very next episode, she has built around the most child friendly holiday, right? Trick or treating is all about kids. So of course you need kids. And I think that Pietro is right. I think she did something like that. Put the kids to sleep, leave them in their beds, then they're not being traumatized. The moral dilemma, I totally agree with what he's saying.
But then also we have Pietro seemingly saying all the right things to be like, I'm on your side. Don't you worry. I'm on your side. No matter what happens, I agree with you. You're doing the right thing. So what did you do?
Yeah.
Which I think feeds into what we were saying before of, is he
Suspicious.
working for someone else?
He's trying to get answers. And especially
Yeah.
when she confirmed for him that she did do this, but she doesn't know how. Or she doesn't know like what happened exactly. So it's like there had to have been something else.
There's something I'm very curious for what we're gonna get, and there's only 3 more episodes left of this show. I'm gonna put that in right here because we are nearing the end. And I'm also gonna say right here, I think it's I say confidently, the next episode is gonna be the family going to the circus.
If they completely ignore the circus and just like don't even show it again, I will be so mad. Like, we need to go to the circus.
But I realize that Wanda has control over all these people, but the circus is the... Are they government? Is SWORD considered government? But they are this organization that has been trying to stop her. Is she really going to take her kids over there? Like, what if something happens? I don't know.
Everyone's minds are messed with.
Yeah, she's in control of everything. I think it'll be fine. Except they don't cross Ellis Street, so...
Which now they possibly could. Oh, and now that you brought up Ellis, I want to also bring up that is almost definitely a reference to Warren Ellis, who is a comic book writer, who, at least in the short amount of time I was looking into it, he's done a lot of X-Men stuff, but I don't know if he's necessarily done anything very special for either Vision or Wanda. I assume he did, since they're almost definitely referencing him, but...
Very
interesting.
Cool. That's awesome.
I just have one more question then that doesn't make sense to me, is that from what we saw, Vision wandering around the outskirts suburbia area where Wanda's powers are enough to hold people but not enough to animate them, is that just a choice she's making because she's like, oh, screw these people, I don't need to waste my energy on them because we're not around them? Or is she physically unable to power them?
You know what? That brings up a really interesting thing for what it could mean now that the bubble is bigger.
Exactly.
Because if she doesn't have enough power to keep even this going, her power is being spread thinner, which does that mean her power is also going to be weaker in the central areas?
Very good question, and I think that's a good point, Cake. Is it out of a choice to conserve her energy, or is it a necessity to ensure that the entire hex stays intact?
Right.
I guess we'll find out.
But then also the circus appeared at the very outskirts of town where they really shouldn't have been moving, but they clearly were. Like, the mimes were moving, the clowns were moving. It doesn't really make sense.
But maybe that's because that's where her energy was being focused at the time, right? To push out the wall. So they were included in that energy.
Okay, Alison, okay. I'll give you that.
Thank you. We are reaching the end, so I think we got to do final thoughts.
I have 2 quick things I want to say. One, they had to reference Kick-Ass because both Evan Peters, who is the current Pietro, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was the original Pietro, were both stars of the movie Kick-Ass, so they had to get a nice reference in there.
Oh,
literally just her commenting on her son saying the word Kick-Ass.
But still, yeah,
that's just a fun little thing. And final thing I want to end on, at least for my thoughts, jump scare dead Pietro.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Worse than Vision, I'm going to say.
I would agree. I would agree. Though, for some reason, she reacted more to his fake jump scare in the house earlier in the episode, which I just thought was a ridiculous reaction. And then when he was actually looking morbid and gross, it was like half the reaction. So I just thought that was funny.
That is kind of funny.
I didn't think it was as much of a jump scare because we saw his abdomen and his chest first with the bullet holes.
If you were reacting quick enough, yeah, that's fair.
Yes. My brain is very fast. So.
Big brain energy over here.
All right. And any final thoughts from you, Cake?
No, just solid episode. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Can't wait to see what happens next week with their Monica's friend that's coming in. What the heck happened to our friend Kat Dennings? I'm so sorry.
Darcy
and Wu. I just care about those 3, to be honest. Could we just have a TV show with them? Because I would watch the heck out of that.
Also, and this will be my final thought unless you're going to jump in again, Cake, but is Emma Caulfield not coming back? Where's Dottie? We saw her in, what, 1 episode? Maybe 2? I need more Dottie.
In the next episode,
I need more Dottie. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I follow her on Instagram, and she has made reference to it, so I
Well,
assume
yeah.
she will be back.
I mean, every Friday she posts a thing like, "Hey, WandaVision, new episode." I'm like, "So you're in it? Oh, you're not. Okay,
Oh, you're
cool."
I'll toss this in real fast. Apparently, Jack Schaefer's first movie where she wrote and directed it, called Timed, I think it is. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong. It was actually starring Emma Caulfield, so that is probably the reason Emma Caulfield is in this.
Very cool.
Yes.
That's a nice fun fact to end the episode. I think that's going to do it for us here at UNTV. We will be back next weekend to talk about episode 7.
Yay!
Thanks
Maybe
for...
it'll be Christmas.
Oh, God.
Hopefully.
You can't have Christmas in February.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.